In a world that's always racing forward, sometimes we need to slow down and reconnect.
Connect genuinely, broaden your perspective, and share your passion.
Bona fide dialogues, where authenticity, creativity, and passion merge. Scott Taylor, known as the Data Whisperer, has helped countless companies by enlightening business executives to the strategic value of proper data management. As an avid business evangelist, he focuses on business alignment and the strategic why rather than system implementation and the technical how. He shares his passion through all forms of thought leadership content, including public speaking, blogs, videos, podcasts, white papers, cartoons, and even puppet shows. Accolades and recognition include Datal Q100, CDO Magazine Leading Data Consultant, Analytica Who's Who in Data Management, Dataversity Top 10 Blogger, and Thinkers 360 Top 10 Thought Leader. His book, Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management, is available now. He lives in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where he often kayaks in Black Rock Harbor. He can also juggle pins and blow a square bubble.
Hi, Scott. Welcome to Bona Fide Dialogues. I'm very excited to meet you.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. You are the data whisperer. And I think most people don't realize that those who whisper are often heard the most, right? Because if you speak louder, people disconnect. But then you whisper something, everyone all of a sudden start to pay attention. And I think this is the way humans are wired. Then somebody whispered, we all want to hear. What do you have to say?
I think you've hit the core of my being here. Yes, I agree. So, but even though I'm the data whisperer, I don't do a lot of whispering. That's the spoiler alert there. I'm out there selling, telling, and yelling about the power and value of proper data management across global enterprises to get people to finally listen and support the kind of data management practices that I think are so important for every type of business today.
Wonderful. Could you please tell us about your journey into data? And why did you decide to focus on data storytelling?
And a little bit more about the whispering. The data whisperer comes from similar to like the horse whisperer, the dog whisperer. So it's the data that we whisper to get it to be managed, to get it to do what we want it to do, rather than necessarily the voice itself being a whisperer. But I think all your points are well taken, no matter what it takes, especially around the idea of trying to connect with people, to get them to hear what you were trying to say, to get them to engage with the message that you have, to get them to take action on the words you're sharing with them. And that's always been part of what I believe storytelling is all about. And I have been a storyteller, whether it was data or not, for my entire career. Everywhere I've been successful, looking back at my long career that goes pre-2K, actually, so decades in the space, every time I've been successful, it's because I've helped the organization tell a better story about the value of what they could bring to a relationship.
And I think this is the way humans connect, right? You hear the story and you can relate to some parts of it and you start paying attention. And I think another part of it, humans can relate to stories and they also relate to dialogues. When they're heard, I think that's important too.
We live by telling stories to each other. People react to story. That's how communication gets transferred from one person to another in a lot of cases. And I think I've been in storytelling since it was 2 words. That's how far back I go. But if you think about talking to a business executive, especially with data, they don't want to see a lot of facts and figures and charts, and unless it puts it in some form of narrative, in some form of construct that helps them understand beginning, middle, end, where is this supposed to go? Where are you trying to take me? What point are you trying to bring to me? Don't make me try and figure it out on my own.
And most importantly, why?
I do. I focus
Right.
on the why much more than the how. And especially in the data space, things are so technical and there's so much hard skill activity that goes on. If you're looking for support, if you're looking for engagement, if you're looking for funding, which a lot of data professionals are trying to do, they're trying to get funding from their organizations to support the work they do.
Yeah,
You got to talk about why it's important. Why is it important to the enterprise?
absolutely. I really like the quote on your website. It says, good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. That's a great point.
Yeah, my most quoted quote for sure.
Yeah, but it's worth to repeat it. Definitely having that dialogue within the company with executives, it's very difficult because, like we already mentioned, the IT professionals and C-level executives, they speak different language. And there's always time issue. C-level executives have to deal with so many different issues. So you have to communicate your point clearly. And normally you don't have much time to communicate it. So you have to tell that story in the best way, highlighting why, right? Not only how, but why this decision needs to be made, right? Or certain data management within this specific company is important. Yeah, I think why is the key question that you need to highlight in your story, right?
That's what leaders care about. If they want to know how it's going to get done, then they've already agreed to it in a lot of cases. But why is this important in my organization? You bring up a really valid point about the time it takes or the time constraints of a business executive, CEO, CFO, whatever C level you're talking to. They don't have a lot of time. And when you come in there as someone who's part of their organization, I counsel people, you have to tell a story, but don't tell your life story. Don't start with, and then I started with
make
this,
it short and relatable.
Yeah, get it relatable, and it's not a suspense story either. So then what happened?
People tend to get into details, but then you have that conversation with a C-level executive. He doesn't need or she doesn't need to know exactly, how it will be done, because this is why you are hired. This is your job, right? To figure out how, but you have to relate to them why we have to do it and what is needed, what are the resources you need, so they can make right decisions and manage it. And I think another important point in communicating that story is related to the fact that it's never one-to-one communication. There's so many people in the company that need to be involved and understand that story, right, that you're telling about data. Because if you can talk only to CEO or CFO, it usually affects so many different departments within the company.
That's the beauty of data, is it touches every part of an organization. But you're correct.
Any organization, right? If you're working in the medical field, data is extremely important. You work in education, you work for some technology company, data is important.
100%.
In order for us to build this data governance structure within the company, you have to have so many processes and systems in place. And I'm thinking about data governance overall, where you have to manage your data in each department. But I wanted to ask you, when you talk about data, you talk about data related to sales?
I talk about all data.
All data.
Mostly the foundational data. So, which is the core of what data management is managing. That's the core of what data governance, data stewardship, data quality, all those aspects of data in an organization. That's the part I focus on. Really where data starts. A lot of the attention and sort of glory and funding and sexiness is around where data ends up. AI, Gen AI, machine learning, analytics, dashboards. That's where data ends up, but it's got to start somewhere. And I focus on where it starts, how to build that foundation, how to create a standard in your organization for data, structure, all those piece parts that are relevant to literally every type of business
Data
that wants to
starts
do
with,
anything at scale.
yeah, data starts with the company. You founded the company and you start generating data on the first day. So don't be too late to start managing your data, right? But some companies don't pay attention to that aspect. But I wanted to say that it doesn't matter if you're a new company, if you're a small company, if you're mid-size or a large company, it's never too late to involve good professionals who understand data and data management and have them come in and see what do you have in your company, because it's important for so many different reasons, not only for your profits, but for your security, for your privacy, your discovery. It touches every aspect of your organization. What do you do if somebody from, let's say, mid-sized company reaches out to you and say, we need your help?
Well, the kind of services I provide is helping people put the story together. And today I work with brands and enterprises to help them amplify their story around data governance. My background was in working for some really iconic world-class data brands like Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet. So business-to-business brands that a lot of consumers actually recognize. Almost everybody knows Nielsen. And working in sales, marketing, and strategy in those organizations to help, as I mentioned, put a better story together around the value we could bring. And so when people talk to me today, it's usually, okay, can you come in? We're doing a data town hall in our enterprise. We want you to come in as a guest speaker, and I'll talk about the themes, the trends, the importance of managing data, regardless of whatever the themes and trends are of the current day, and how to try and get some kind of messaging off the ground within the organization so everybody understands the benefits of what the data department, for lack of a better word, what the data department can bring and what they have to offer.
Yeah, I think this communication is important within the company, but it's also important to communicate your message, tell your story to the outside world. And do you come in to tell that story as well?
On the brand side, for sure. So technology brands, which are sponsors of the work I do, they're trying to convince people of the benefits of what they have to offer. So I help amplify that message. I'll help enhance it in some way. And in some cases, I help draw that story out of them. Find the parts.
They're probably surprised. You make some findings that they didn't know about, right?
Well, you get them to talk about it.
You see the whole picture.
Get them to talk about it in a natural way. Sit down with the CEO of a consulting firm or a enterprise software company and talk to what's their vision? Where do they see the value they bring? What are the common challenges their customers have? And you start to realize these are common themes. There's, in the data management space, the challenges people face, the hurdles that they're trying to overcome, the opportunities they're seeking tend to be more the same than they are different, regardless of whatever business they're in. And whether you're in healthcare or finance or manufacturing or media, whether you're a startup or you're a multinational global enterprise, you still have these fundamental foundational core data issues and challenges and opportunities that you have to focus on if you want your business to scale. And just land on that word. Who doesn't want their business to scale? Everybody wants their business to scale.
Absolutely.
The only way you scale is with hardware and software and data. And if you have data, you must have data management.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you mentioned a very good point about customers. What do your customers want? Right? Collecting data from your customers is extremely important. But I refer to your quote all the time, bad data can make decisions bad. So what are the key advice you can give to organizations that are looking at their customer data or trying to understand what their customers want or missing that will improve their product? What do they need to focus on? What would be the best advice when it comes to customer relationships?
When it comes to data about customers, let's just sort of take that, because a lot of questions in that question.
Data is such a huge topic. Let's focus
on a huge topic.
It.
So backing up a little bit, every organization I've ever been engaged with and every company on earth, I believe, is trying to do basically the same thing, which is provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale. And we talked about the scale part. That's hardware, software, data. Value comes from only a couple of different buckets. Can you help grow the business? Can you help improve the business? Can you help protect the business? And when you get to relationships, every company has relationships. If you don't have relationships, you do not have a business. So you might call them different things. It might be a customer, it might be a partner, it might be a consumer, it might be a patient, it might be a citizen, it might be a client. A lot of different names for relationships, but we all have relationships in our business. And structuring that data is where I believe all organizations need to start. And that foundational structure, I'm not a data modeler, but to give you some sense of what I believe are the core dimensions of data structure, I use this thing I call the 4 C's: code, company, category, and country. So every record needs to have a code or some sort of unique identifier so you don't have duplicates. I mean, let's just start at the basic stuff. People have problems all the time because they have duplicate records. And as a enterprise, as an operator of some sort, if I have 2 records about someone and I don't realize they're the same thing, then I'm going to be sending duplicate messaging. I might be providing one version of that customer an offer while realizing the other version of that customer already owes me money. So why would I give them another offer? There's a lot of problems when you get into duplicates. So uniquely identifying an entity is where you start. And that could be customers, brands, assets, locations, whatever those things are.
I think it's a great point, about duplicates. It can affect many different areas. If you have many duplicates, then it will increase the cost of your backup as well. Internal, you will have to pay a lot of money for backup because you have all these duplicates of data that you have to store. Yeah, that's just one of the points.
Yeah, a lot of aspects around that. And then just real quickly, the other C's are: company means there's some form of hierarchy. Category, that means there's some type of taxonomy that will let you know what kind of thing it is. And just because they all start with C, you need country or some form of geography. So if you have a unique, if you have a code and you have a company and you have a category and you have a country, or if you have a unique identifier and a hierarchy and a taxonomy and a geography, those are the basic dimensions where almost all reporting, data integration, data viewing all come from. I'm in a market. How many things do I have in the market? I am calling on this type of customer. How do I find more of this type of customer? I've got 2 entities that belong to a parent. There's some kind of parent-child relationship. Lots of different ways to configure those.
And then when it comes to geography, just to add to your point, I think it's important from the legal point of view, how you would treat that data from the privacy law perspective, for example. But yeah, very, very good point.
Totally agree. So those dimensions, again, it's really the atomic level as I consider it. What you do from there, that kind of goes outside of my space to a certain degree, but that's where I advise people on. You got to get that stuff right. And then using something pithy like code, company, category, country, that's how I can explain it to a CEO. I'm not going to talk about entities and hierarchical relationships and disambiguation and, all these very complicated ontologies, all these very uncomplicated ways to describe the same thing, but use simple business accessible language. I mean, if you want to talk to your business and you're a technical person, you have to speak the language of your business.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Not
and
the
it
other way
seems
around.
like these are simple points, but they're so important. If you don't get those right away, this is where all the problems start.
100%. That's where they start. But it's all around a vocabulary. Are you fluent in the vocabulary of your business? What is the terminology you use to talk about the areas I just mentioned, whether it's
Right.
relationships or brands or companies or hierarchy, whatever those things are? Your company has specific terminology, and the story you tell needs to leverage that terminology. You don't go to a healthcare company and talk about how they have customers, because
Right.
they have patients,
Yeah.
right? So it's something simple as that, same thing. But how would you react if you went to your doctor's office and they said, "Oh, our new customers here"? It's like, that's not the
Absolutely. Use the right language.
yeah,
Speak their language.
you probably feel pretty weird if you went to a grocery store and they called you a patient as well. So you want to have the right
User,
context
yeah.
within that relationship. That's key.
Absolutely. And I think you have been working in this field for so long, for many, many years. And long time ago, people didn't even see value in data, right? Later on, everyone started to understand that managing your data, collecting your data, managing your data, organizing your data brings value to your company. And people started to refer to your data as gold, new oil, right? Which is great. So I think many companies nowadays take advantage of their data and improve their processes. So, but now with the AI, especially in the last year, everyone is talking about AI. It's the biggest AI been around for many years, but in the last year it became a topic for conversation, right? So, and what we're hearing now that people refer to data as garbage in, garbage out, when it comes to training of different data models. What happened?
I would have to say, I don't think you're interpreting that story correctly, actually. So garbage in, garbage out is like one of the oldest cliches in data. And
Okay.
I think that really references the idea that if your data isn't any good, then you're not going to get good output.
Absolutely.
Data's the new gold, data's the new oil, and I don't really think
none of this is right?
really hit the right tone with a lot of folks. But regardless, that's a more recent idea that, okay, there's data there, there's value out of something that we didn't realize was valuable. So I wouldn't interpret it necessarily that people are calling data garbage. They're just warning, as they always do. Look, if your data is garbage, then it's not going to work as well as you want it to. So make sure you manage that data. It goes right back into my sweet spot. And I talk about GIGO all the time: garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out, whatever you want to call it. So
I think it became more apparent now because of the AI training models. Then they collect all data and then they see the results that surprise them, right? But it just highlights, like you said, the old story. Look at which data you're collecting, right, for your analysis.
Garbage in, garbage out. It's as old as data. It's as old as computers. It's older even than that. People just have realized it. And I look at every new hot, shiny thing coming along and try to find, okay, where's the story about the inputs, not the outputs? Where's the story that says, are they telling it enough that, okay, if you don't use expertly stewarded, well-governed, highly structured data going into a operational process, that you're not going to get the results that you're looking for? So a million different ways to say the same thing. And today it's just more focus on it, I guess, because Gen AI is the super hottest thing going on. And yes, and all of a sudden, so Gen AI comes out, everybody goes nuts. The hype cycle is off the charts. And then you start to hear rumblings of, well, the training corpus really will
look at this
result, the output, or we need AI governance, not just for the models, but for the content. That's if you go back a couple of years when COVID happened, everybody jumped into e-commerce and they realized, okay, we can't do e-commerce properly because our product data isn't any good. If you go further back to data science when it came out, oh, data scientists are spending 70% of their time munging and wrangling data and 30% of their time complaining about munging and wrangling data. But it was the same thing. Oh, the data isn't good enough yet for me to do this data science. You go back to enterprise systems when people were implementing those in the late 90s and the early aughts, they realized, oh, we have to harmonize all our legacy data. We have all these data silos that we have to somehow integrate all that information, and the quality isn't there. You go back further, go all the way back, go back before computers, go back before electricity. When General Ledger came out, people still said, oh, we need a standardized chart of accounts. So the story has not changed. From Gen AI all the way back to Gen Ledger, it's the same story.
So we're just talking about data quality, right?
In one way or another.
So as we're talking about AI, do you think there's anything new data professionals need to know about data storytelling when it comes to AI? Does it change anything, or like you said, it's the same story?
It's a much faster car. It's a much faster beast that they've got to tame and ride, but so that brings with it a lot of risk. With Gen AI, you can make huge mistakes that go almost out of control because of the technology and the ability to spread that stuff. So you need to even be more aware of the implications before you begin. And for me, the advice I give everybody, no matter what the latest hot buzzword is, learn how to tell a story. Whether it's about data or it's about what you did last weekend, learn how to tell a story in a way that people will be engaged, that they will realize what you're saying has some importance to them, and then will take some form of action on it. And if you can tell a story, that is a corporate superpower. You can transcend all kinds of internal business processes. You can cut to the chase with your CEO at the holiday party and share an idea with them that they didn't even realize was possible. If you can have that ability to create a quick narrative and make it land. So you're always learning. I'm still learning. I've been doing it forever, but I'm still learning. And I don't think you can learn enough about storytelling in a corporate environment.
But tell us about your book, because you learned a lot and you keep learning, and you wrote a book. Could you please tell us about it a little bit?
I wrote a book. It's called Telling Your Data Story. Data Storytelling for Data Management. You can see right on the cover here. It's 99% buzzword free. I did not want to overpromise. And the premise of the book is data management in particular needs support. It needs stakeholder engagement. It needs ongoing funding. There was a lot of talk about data storytelling in the space. I looked at the dozen or so books that were out at the time, and all those books were about analytics. They were about business intelligence. They were about how to take some form of KPI or metric and put it in a business context to drive some sort of action. Super important, but it wasn't about the data management part. These were stories with data. These were stories about where data ends up. I said there needs to be stories about where data starts. There needs to be stories about why managing data is of critical importance to an enterprise. And so I decided there were two kinds of data storytelling out there, one for analytics and one for data management. And I put my stake in the ground and said, okay, I'm going to write the first book about data storytelling for data management. And it certainly served me well. People seem to enjoy it. It's still a bestseller for my publisher, at least. I have a great time with it. And it was a compendium of all of tried to crystallize all the experience and learning I had from decades of speaking to different types of enterprises at every level of data maturity in every type of category all over the earth. That was my scope. And finding these common themes, these common challenges, these common obstacles, these common goals that they had.
anyone can benefit
Yeah.
from it, right? It's not some
I think so.
technical book that somebody would read and only certain, for example, data professionals, right? They will read and understand it. But this book, if somebody in marketing would read it, they would benefit from it. If somebody in finance read it, they would benefit from it, right?
I think so. It's about, at its essence, it's about putting a company story together. How do you sell something in your organization?
Yeah, it affects every department in your company. So anyone should read it.
So I'm focusing on data because the data department and the folks in those departments tend to be really good at the hard skills and not so good at the soft skills. And if you want to be a data leader of any sort, data analytics, IT, whatever it happens to be, you've got to be able to communicate across your organization and get other parts of your company to support what you're doing. And frankly, you have to compete for the money. So we get down to it. Everybody needs funding.
Absolutely.
And you are competing with better storytellers in your organization. So if you run the data department and you're competing with marketing, marketing can tell better stories than you. Sales.
Absolutely.
If the head of sales can't tell stories, they don't make quota. So they absolutely know how to tell a story.
So the money they need for data management, that's usually the money that would be used for specific tools, right?
It could be, whether it's personnel, and in a lot of cases, there's the funding part, but then there's also the support part. If you're trying to establish a data standard across your organization and people don't adhere to it or follow it, then you're not going to get very far. And they need to understand, why do I need to change my workflow? Why do I need to change the way I do my work every day just to meet some standard in some department run by people I don't even talk to all the time? You got to be able to spread that message, because that's the reason you need to do it in a very simple way, is that those people are in charge of the garbage coming in. If you've got salespeople that just key in whatever they want in terms of a customer name and spell street with an abbreviation or spell it out, or that's how duplicates happen, that's the garbage coming into the system. And it may not hurt that one salesperson at that one moment when they're trying to make that single transaction, but multiply that out by all the interactions that people have and all the transactions they might have across a given quarter or year. And all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of crappy data in your organization that you've got to deal with downstream. So fixing keeping those problems from even starting.
Absolutely.
Not fixing mistakes, but avoiding making those mistakes to begin with.
And in order to do that, you have to have specific training within your organization. And we were talking about funding. Yes, you want to spend some money for tools, but you also need to maybe hire more data professionals, right? For your department.
Whatever the particular initiative is, that in terms of how it needs to be supported. But regardless, anybody involved needs to, if they understand why it's important, they're going to focus on it. They're going to remember what the stakes are. If you just
there's
tell them,
no understanding, if there's no message being communicated. So yeah, definitely. Every company needs to have this training, because everyone is doing their job. And if they don't know that everything they're doing, it can affect the whole company. So I think training is extremely, extremely important. We talk about your book, and now I wanted to talk about data puppets.
Data puppets.
Data puppets, yes.
So data puppets are these characters I created that it's starring the chief dog officer, the CDO, the chief dog officer, here he is right here, and the ITB, who is, here it goes, ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords, and their adventures in trying to manage data across their enterprise. And of course, everything goes wrong. They hire a cat sultan from Meow Kinsey. They try to bring some tools in like Microspoon and Sales Fork. There's a whole
Sales Fork, yeah, I like that one. Sales Fork.
There's a whole utensil theme going on. But
so the idea is that you're using those puppets to create videos to explain the simple things that people don't understand. And we need to find this language that everyone can understand, right?
I'm pretty proud of the fact I'm using what is basically one of the most analog forms of storytelling to describe and explain very digital situations. And these have just broken through the chatter in LinkedIn and across the data space for the folks who've been watching these videos, because they ended up being really relatable. The first video I put out there, I just sort of did it for fun. I was like, all right, I had all these ideas. Let me just finally do it. And the number one feedback I get from people is, it's just like my company. I just left that. This is my life. A couple of weeks ago, somebody showed me a text they had sent to a friend of theirs with a link to my video. And it just said, this is my life. And I go, these are puppets, right? It's a dog, it's a bee, it's a cat, it's a monkey, yeah. But somehow just their personalities.
People can relate, yes.
They relate to them, and they do, wacky stuff, and there's a lot of puns and dad joke humor in there, but it's very relatable because I've lived with all of these things. And it gives me a chance to use a little satire, a little parody, a little humor in the space.
Hello, I'm the CDO. I must create a data-driven utopia of interoperability where insights flow freely from workflow to edge across integrated ecosystems. And I have to fix the quarterly reports. Let's give a call to IT and see how they're doing. We'll patch them in.
It's the ITB here.
Hello, IT. What do we need to create my data-driven utopia of interoperability and fix the quarterly reports?
Our resources are devoted to the metadata content and analytics graph hub fabric mesh to enable the operational infrastructure scaling of the digital transformation.
I thought I was good at buzzwords.
Buzz, buzz, buzz. And we have to fix the quarterly reports.
You should be a ghillie.
A ghillie?
Yes, a ghillie. AGIL. Look in Wikipedia. Look under Agile.
Let me check with the head of the tiger team.
I'm sure we could scrum something up.
Here's what they've got. Soap. Yawn. Rest.
I'm ready for a bath, a sweater, and a nap.
Python. Panda. Bark. Whoa, it's dangerous. Hadoop.
That was a cluster.
Hive. Oh, look at that. That's just wrong.
Really awkward.
You need to leave now. You're making me uncomfortable. What else you got down there? Kafka. JSON. A lot of JSON. Squirrel. SQL. NoSQL. And what's a pirate's favorite programming language? R. And the latest, greatest, and buzziest.
Oh, does that go with the pirate?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with the pirate.
But it's a ship.
Try this then. See if you can sound it out.
Burnett eyes.
Kubernetes.
Kubernetes!
One more thing.
Toilet paper?
After all that integration, we're gonna have to clean up our back end.
Now, what about the data?
The data?
I don't have the data.
Yeah, what about the data?
The data?
Why would I have anything to do with data?
You're IT!
It's information technology. You're the CDO.
CDO is Chief Dog Officer. The business has the data.
The business has it.
Sorry I'm late for the call. I'm a little dizzy from our customer 360. What about the data? It's the new oil.
I thought you had the data.
I don't have the data. I'm the business. Let's go fix the quarterly reports. After you fix the quarterly reports, can we start monetizing our big data? Wow. If it's so big, how come I can't see it?
What about my analytics graph hub fabric mesh?
Stop with the buzzwords.
That stings.
I don't have any data.
Kubernetes!
Now what do we do?
I don't have everybody always coming to me for the data?
Does that sound like your organization? This has been a puppet service announcement from me, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. Don't let the tech talk dominate your data conversations, and do what master data lovers everywhere are doing and give proper data management the strategic focus and importance it deserves. And who knows, maybe all your buzzword dreams will come true. Put your data to work. Isn't that right, gang? Put your data to work.
The D stands for dog. I didn't know that.
If any of your listeners are trying to find them, I'm sure we'll have some links, but also all you have to do is Google the term data puppets. I'm the only thing that comes up. It's 100% organic reach here. It's an SEO marketer's dream. Somehow I didn't buy the term. I'm not using any Google ads or keywords. It's just the only thing
That
Google has
possibly can
seen.
come up, right? in that search.
That's it. It's just all, I'm very proud of that. So it's just all my videos and articles and whatever else has been written about the data puppets. But if you want to see the data puppets, it's on YouTube. I've got a playlist on YouTube with the puppets, and certainly follow me on LinkedIn. Of course, to get people to tell better stories that focus on why versus how. I mean, you can boil my entire data philosophy down to 3 words: truth before meaning, which means you've got to determine the truth in your data before you derive meaning out of it. If you don't have truthful data, you're not going to get meaningful results. And that basic premise, again, I couldn't come up with fewer words. One exercise I do all the time, and I encourage people to do, is, can you boil your message down? What's the fewest number of words you can use? Truth before meaning is only 3 words. And that for me is, I don't have a tattoo of it, but I would if I wore tattoos. Just that's how basic that premise is to me, as a bedrock of everything I do.
Start managing your data. It's never too late to organize your data, to create new processes, to hire the right people. It will benefit your company. Let me ask you one more question that I ask everyone on Bonafide Dialogues. What is kindness? And how would that relate to what you do in your profession?
I think part of it shows itself in the willingness to share what your thoughts are and why you think somebody can benefit from what you're talking about, and taking the care and understanding to figure out their context. What is their world like first, before you come barraging in with whatever messaging you have, because then that's going to show the empathy and the care you're taking and understanding their situation and trying to make it better.
This is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I hope we will talk again.
This is a great conversation. Thank you absolutely for having me.